Wearing expensive watches is one of the methods used by the rich living in the world to show their status and assets. Rolex is a top-ranked watch in terms of affordable watches used in this way. Let's see today, in this video, how Rolex became a luxury watch in the world, and about the activities that have happened since the beginning of Rolex Company till now. Alfred Davis and his brother-in-law, Hans Wilsdorf, founded Wilsdorf and Davis, the company that would eventually become Rolex SA, in London, England, in 1905. In 1908, Wilsdorf registered the trademark, Rolex, which became the brand name of watches from Wilsdorf and Davis. He opened an office in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. Wilsdorf wanted the brand name to be easily pronounceable in any language, and short enough to fit on the face of a watch. He also thought that the name Rolex was onomatopoeic, sounding like a watch being wound. In November 1915, the company changed its name to Rolex Watch Co. Limited. In 1920, the company's name was officially changed to Montres Rolex SA, and later to Rolex SA. Shortly after starting the company, it faced a marketing challenge in watches manufactured by Rolex Company: the infiltration of dust and moisture under the dial and crown, which damaged the movement. To address this problem, in 1926, third-party casemaker produced a waterproof and dustproof wristwatch for Rolex, giving it the name Oyster, after introducing this by Rolex. As a demonstration, they submerged Oyster models in aquariums, which it displayed in the windows of its main points of sale. In 1927, British swimmer Mercedes Glatze swam the English Channel with an oyster on her necklace, becoming the first Rolex ambassador. To celebrate the feat, Rolex published a full-page advertisement on the front page of the Daily Mail for every issue, for a whole month, proclaiming the watch's success during the 10-hour-plus swim. In 1931, Rolex patented a self-winding mechanism called a perpetual rotor, a semicircular plate that relies on gravity to move freely. In turn, the Oyster watch became known as the Oyster Perpetual. Rolex mostly produced mechanical watches, but it has also participated in the development of the original quartz watch movements. Although Rolex has made very few quartz models for its Oyster line, the company's engineers were instrumental in design and implementation of the technology during the late 1960s and early 1970s. In 1968, Rolex collaborated with a consortium of 16 Swiss watch manufacturers to develop the Beta 21 quartz movement used in their Rolex Quartz Date 510, alongside other manufacturers, including the Omega Electro Quartz watches. Within about 5 years of research, design, and development, Rolex created the Clean Slate 5035-5055 movement that would eventually power the Rolex Oyster Quartz. Material-wise, Rolex first used its Cerachrome ceramic bezel on the GMT Master 2 in 2005, and has since then implemented ceramic bezel inserts across the range of professional sports watches. They are available on the Submariner, Sea Dweller, Deep Sea, GMT Master 2 and Daytona models. In contrast to the aluminum bezel, which it replaced, the ceramic bezel color does not wear out from exposure to UV light and is very scratch resistant. Rolex also uses 904 liters grade stainless steel. Most Swiss watches are made with 316 liters grade steel. Rolex uses the higher grade, as it is more resistant to corrosion, and when polished, leaves a beautiful luster. Each Rolex comes with its own unique serial number, which can help indicate an approximate production period of the watch. Serial numbers were first introduced in 1926. Rolex serial numbers were issued sequentially until 1954, when Rolex restarted from number 999 to number 0. Then in 1987, there was an addition of one letter to a 6-digit serial number. Then again, in 2010 to the present date, Rolex introduced random serial numbers. Among the company's innovations are, in 1910, the first watchmaker to earn chronometer certification for a small lady wristwatch. In 1926, produced the Oyster case, the first reliable waterproof wristwatch case that was based on a screw-down crown. To this end, Rolex acquired the Paragox Parrot screw-down patent, added a clutch, and combined the screw-down crown with a threaded case back and bezel. Wilsdorf even had a specially made Rolex watch. The watch was called the Deep Sea, attached to the side of Trieste, which went to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The watch survived and tested as having kept perfect time during its descent and ascent. This was confirmed by a telegram sent to Rolex the following day saying,
"I'm happy to confirm that even at 11,000 meters your watch is as precise as on the surface. Best regards, Jacques Piccard."
Earlier waterproof watches such as the Submarine Watch by Tavans used other means to seal the case. In 1931, released a wristwatch winding mechanism featuring a rotor, a full 360 degrees rotating weight to power the watch by the movement of the wearer's arm. As well as making watch winding unnecessary, it also kept the power from the mainspring more consistent, resulting in more reliable timekeeping. Fully rotating weights later became part of the standard winding mechanism of self-winding wristwatches. A preceding self-winding mechanism by Harwood instead used a weight that moved in a 270 degrees arc, hitting buffer springs on both sides. In 1945, introduced the first chronometer wristwatch with an automatically changing date. On the dial, Rolex date just ref 4467. An earlier wristwatch with a date-changing mechanism by Mimo was not chronometer certified. In 1953, released a case waterproof to 100 meters, 330 feet, Rolex Oyster Perpetual Submariner Ref 6204, 1953. Although this has been commonly publicized as the first diving watch, Omega, made 21 years earlier. In 1932, the Marine, which could stand 135 MTS, 35 MTS, more than the 1953 Rolex Submariner, and also Blancpain produced, before Rolex their 50 fathoms in 1953, 10 months before Rolex. In 1954, produced a wristwatch, which showed 2 time zones at once. Rolex GMT Master Ref 6542, 1954. Yet again, it was not the first company to do so, as the Longines dual time preceded the GMT by a full quarter of a century. In 1956, made a wristwatch with an automatically changing day and date. On the dial, Rolex day date, 1956. In general, Rolex has 3 watch lines: Oyster Perpetual, Professional, and Cellini. The Cellini line is Rolex's line of dress watches. The primary bracelets for the Oyster line are named Jubilee, Oyster, President, and Pearlmaster. The watch straps on the models are usually either stainless steel, yellow gold, white gold, or rose gold. In the United Kingdom, the retail price for the stainless steel Pilot's range, such as the GMT Master 2, starts from £5,600 sterling. Diamond inlay watches are more expensive. The book Vintage Wristwatches by Antiques Roadshows, Rain Haynes listed a price estimate of vintage Rolex watches that ranged between US $650 and US $75,000, while listing vintage Tudors between US $1,250 and US $9,000. On October 26, 2017, a Rolex Daytona Ref 6239 wristwatch, manufactured in 1968, was sold by Phillips in its New York auction for US $17.75 million. The watch was originally purchased by Joanne Woodward in 1968 and was given by Joanne to her husband, Paul Newman, as a gift. The auction price set a record at $15.5 million, plus buyer's premium of 12.5%. for a final price of $17,752,500 in New York City. As of 2018, it is the most expensive wristwatch and the second most expensive watch ever sold at auction. Notably, at the time that Newman gave the watch to James Cox, the watch was selling for about $200. On May 28, 2018, a Rolex Daytona Unicorn Ref 6265 was sold in auction by Phillips for US $5.93 million in Geneva, making it the second most expensive Rolex timepiece ever sold at auction. The most expensive Rolex, in terms of retail price, ever produced by the Rolex factory was the GMT ICE reference 116769 TBR, with a retail price of US $485,350. A Forbes magazine article on the Swiss watch industry compared the retail value of Rolex to that of competing brands Corum, Universal, Genève, and IWC. Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf created the Air Prince line to honor RAF pilots of the Battle of Britain, releasing the first model in 1958. By 2007, the 1142XX iteration of the Air King featured a COSC certified movement in a 34mm case, considered by some a miniaturized variant of the 39mm Rolex Explorer, as both watches featured very similar styling cues. The 34mm Air King lineup was the least expensive series of Oyster Perpetual. In 2014, the Air King was dropped, making the Oyster Perpetual the entry-level Rolex line. In 2016, Rolex reintroduced the Air King, available as a single model, number 116900, largely similar to its predecessors but with a larger 40mm case and a magnetic shield, found on the Rolex Milgauss. Indeed, the new 40mm Air King is slightly cheaper than the 39mm Explorer. The Explorer lacks the magnetic shield, but its movement has Paraflex shock absorbers that are not found in the Air King's movement. The name of the watch line in catalogs is often Rolex Oyster or Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Rolex Oyster and Oyster Perpetual are generic names and not specific product lines, except for the Oyster Perpetual 26, 31, 34, 36, 39, 41 and Oyster Perpetual date 34. The Rolex Oyster Perpetual watch is a direct descendant of the original, watertight Rolex Oyster watch, created in 1926. Within the Oyster Perpetual lineup, there are three different movements. The 39 features the caliber 31-32 movement with the Parachrome hairspring and Paraflex shock absorbers. The Oyster Perpetual 39 is a less sporty variant of the Rolex Explorer 39mm, as they share the same case, same bracelet and buckle, same bezel and same movement, with a different dial and different hands, while the 34 and 36 models have the caliber 31-30 featuring the Parachrome hairspring, and the smallest 28 and 31 models have caliber 22-31. The Oyster Perpetual date 34, or simply date 34, adds a date display and date movement, plus the options of a white gold fluted bezel and diamonds on the dial. Certain models from the date and date just are almost identical. However, the date just have 36mm and 41mm cases paired, with a 20mm bracelet, compared to the date's 34mm case and 19mm bracelet. Modern versions of the Oyster Perpetual date and date just models share Rolex's 31-35 movement, with the most recent change to the 31-35 movement being the introduction of Rolex's Parachrome Blue hairspring, which provides increased accuracy, as the date and date just share a movement. Both have the ability to adjust the date forward one day at a time without adjusting the time. This feature is not confined to the date just. Compared to the date just has a much wider range of customization options, including other metals beyond stainless steel, various materials for the dial, and optional diamonds on the dial and bezel. The Date Just 2, which was released in 2009, has a bigger case, 41mm diameter than the standard Date Just, and it also features an updated movement, being only available in steel with white, yellow or rose gold on an Oyster bracelet. In 2016, Rolex released the Date Just 41, which has the same 41mm diameter case as the Date Just 2. However, the Date Just 41 has smaller indexes and a thinner bezel compared to the Date Just 2. Rolex produced specific models suitable for the extremes of deep-sea diving, caving, mountain climbing, polar exploration, and aviation. Early professional models included the Rolex Submariner 1953 and the Rolex Sea Dweller 1967. The latter watch has a helium release valve, co-invented with Swiss watchmaker Doxa, to release helium gas buildup during decompression. The Explorer 1953 and Explorer 2 1971 were developed specifically for explorers who would navigate rough terrain, such as the world-famous Mount Everest expeditions. Indeed, the Rolex Explorer was launched to celebrate the successful ascent of Everest in 1953 by the expeditionary team led by Sir John Hunt. The 39mm Rolex Explorer was designed as a tool watch for rugged use, hence its movement has Paraflex shock absorbers, which give them higher shock resistance than other Rolex watches. The 42mm Rolex Explorer 2 has some significant differences from the 39mm Explorer. The Explorer 2 adds a date function and an orange 24-hour hand, which is paired with the fixed bezel's black 24-hour markers for situations underground or around the poles where day cannot be distinguished from night. Another iconic model is the Rolex GMT Master 1955, originally developed at the request of Pan Am Airways to provide its crews with a dual-time watch that could be used to display local time and GMT, which was the international time standard for aviation at that time. According to the 2017 Brand Z report, the brand value is estimated $8.5 billion. Rolex watches continue to have a reputation as status symbols. It produces more than 1 million timepieces each year. It is said that
the power of the crown is never more felt than when trying to negotiate space in a retail environment for the product of another brand.
Now, you can understand how Rolex became a world luxury brand. And more information about Rolex watches. Just imagine the pride you will have if you wear a Rolex watch. Subscribe our channel to know about world-famous watches. Share this video to get an understanding about watches for your friends. And comment if you like Rolex watches. To share your feeling about your favorite watches with others, join our Art of the Time Facebook group. Link is in the description.